Paul, we're outside in the freezing cold, pitch black.
There's a lighter
in my pocket. What are you doing?
So in the last episode, you guys seen that we had to push it off the ramp. It's still that same evening. I need it back in now. So I'm going to try and see if it's a plug issue. I think the plugs have maybe soaked and flooded, so I'm burning away and cleaning them up and putting it back in to see if I can actually get it started. I don't want to leave it outside. It needs to go back in.
It was too hard to push out.
I don't want to push it back in. It's terrible to push. It's going back in. I just don't want to push it back in, so it's worth a try doing this first because I'm not getting any codes. I might have left something unplugged, but let's try this. Right, we're giving it one chance, so if it doesn't fire up, cut to the scene of me pushing it back into the unit. Don't believe it. If any of you have ever had to push one of these cars, then you'll know our pain here. One of the heaviest cars ever to push. And you will recall the crack in the paintwork on the back quarter was from me punching the car last time I had to push it. It's the following morning on the Pulsar. I've came back down last night just laying in my bed and I've been thinking, have I connected everything? On the scan tool it was saying about throttle position and I think it said closed. So I was lying last night and I'm thinking, have I done something with throttle position or have I left something unplugged? And it dawned on me that I've plugged all the plugs in down the back of the inlet manifold, but as well as forgetting to put in the one for the ignition coil, I thought there's also another one belongs in this side, and it turns out I was right. Show you guys in here, I've just popped a intercooler off down here, which I think throttle position sensor is going to be here. If I look down there, I'm sure it's the first plug I disconnected when I started stripping everything down. Stupidly my phone's been full and I deleted the video, so I couldn't even watch it back and find out. But I'm thinking that's the throttle position sensor. And what's that there? A plug. So I'm going to hook that back up. I don't know if that's going to be the fix, but it's certainly no helping any. Strangely enough, I'm not getting any codes because everything says it's fine on the scan tool, but I'm going to plug this in, put it back together, and hopefully I've got it running for Michelle coming, because this thing is so heavy. If any of you guys have pushed one of these, you will understand. So hopefully, to surprise her, we've got it running by the time she comes back. Can it be, man? Seriously, it can't be. It can't be. Yes! What's the dance? What's the dance? Hey! Oh my god, the smoke. Get the door open. To get it running, I changed the spark plugs over to a brand new set of spark plugs, but I want to show you an issue with the spark plugs just in a moment. We're going to dive straight in. You've obviously seen in the last episode the issues we're having right now, which I didn't have before I started working on it. This is just what happens when I work on this car all the time, which is why I left it for so long. It's nothing but bad memories. I'm just going to catch you up in engine bay to see where we're at and show you what we're going to be doing today. Right, engine bay. Everyone's all familiar with this now. Just going to give you guys a quick update. I've stripped this back out, so I've just removed all the lines. Removed the air hose this time to give me more space. I've got a big space in here. Today's episode, I'm going to be fixing and changing every single vacuum line, and this is the reason why. I have a vacuum line here, which is then botched into another vacuum line there, and then onto there. This one here is a vacuum line botched onto another vacuum line, botched onto another vacuum line. So that's an issue with that one. I don't even know if they're all wired into the correct space, because I've just seen a diagram saying that this one here should be to the airbox, and I had that one there on the airbox, so I'm not sure about that. This fuel line here, as you can see, is taut. There is actual tension on that. You can see the strain. We're over fueling like crazy right now, which is why it won't start. Could be a kink and it's not relieving the fuel back, because that's a little regulator there, or it could be the regulator indeed. Could have some wiring issues somewhere, some vacuum issues. It's just an absolute scramble in here. There was another one I've seen earlier there. So that's for the dump valve. So I have a thin pipe squished into a thick pipe. So that's obviously no correct. This is just, it's just botched crazy. So we're going to replace it all. Something I want to show you guys is this. Wait to see where the lens is over here. Here. Where's the lens? Here. Right, so that carbon build up there on that spark plug. That is after about 1 minute of running. So there's a clear issue there with overfueling. And these are now starting to struggle to get the car to fire up. Those were brand new, literally brand new plugs. In for about a minute. It got me enough to drive the car in, and that was them, black. So we've got a crazy overfueling issue, which I never had before. I have had it before. I have had it before when I had MAF issues, so suspected MAF issue here, suspected vacuum leak somewhere or an air leak from when I quickly plugged everything back in, but it was a bit of a nightmare there. So what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to replace all of these vacuums, this fuel hose here, and then I'm going to give some attention into this area, and I'll explain why later in the video. And then hopefully then it can start and run, because I haven't been able to bleed up the coolant system yet because the car won't run. Changing these vacuum pipes isn't the most difficult, especially compared to the Super Turbo. But it is something that shouldn't have been left without attention for so long, as they can cause so many running issues. Basically just plumbing in all these new lines. If I show you guys, plumbing in all the new lines. So I have a new fuel return ready here, just needs trim to size, but I'm going to do that because I don't want to make everything too short. Once I get everything kind of back in, I'm going to trim it all and then clip it all up. But the problem I'm having is I'm running everything, so the 3-way connector air chamber in the back, you may have seen when the inlet manifold was off. This is one of the vacuum lines, so it goes to a 3-way connector. One end goes to the fuel pressure regulator, the other comes down to the boost sensor there. So still got the third one to clip in. But basically the second one of the three is this one here. You'll recall that I had one pipe stuffed in another pipe and then going to the blow-off valve, so I have a new pipe straight for the blow-off valve. Third one goes to the carbon canister, which is this here, and this is where my new issue is. So I'm just making sure that I've got everything in the carbon canister correct. The diagrams I've got show 2 outlets here, and there's 1, 2, 3. And then another issue I have is what the f is this? It's been blanked off, and I'm working off the 2 diagrams. So I'm working off that one and this one. Basically one's an SR20, one's more of a GTIR, but this should be plumbed in somewhere, and I've got my one coming from the fuel tank going into the top, which I think might be wrong. I think we've got another vacuum dilemma to add to the ones we already had, which may explain why this thing has never run properly. It never had a big canister in it when I bought it, but I had all these vacuum lines laying doing nothing, so I took the carbon canister off my second car and put it in. So the carbon canister may be wired in wrong, which would have been me at the time. I don't know if we should just do, a lot of people just get rid of it at this point and do that. Should I do that? And then I don't know anymore. This is Pulsar life, this is it. I keep saying it, but this is it. It's never easy, and it never works, never ever works. Most unreliable car in the world. We've magically built it back up. We're at a sensitive part now. I'm just going to spin and show you guys what we've been up to, but there was some stumbles across the way, and thanks to the WhatsApp group for this car, I've managed to rectify a few things which I think was wrong, so fingers crossed this plays out here, because it's starting to get on my nerves. This is just what it's like, and then I just leave it and I go and work on something else. So, built everything back up. One of the major issues was all the vacuum in there, so I've literally replaced every line. No too exciting, so I've just skipped it by you guys. I've also put a new fuel return line on there, so it's not taut anymore. Basically, I've got a breather coming from the fuel tank, which I had into this vacuum port, which was wrong. This vacuum port one, which operates the diaphragm in there, is supposed to go down into the plenum. So I've switched. This is one thing I'm not sure about, whether I've got these two round the right way or not. One comes from the vacuum box at the back, the black 3 lines, and the other is the vent for the fuel tank. And the hose that comes out the bottom, which I thought was blanked off, isn't actually blanked off, and it is supposed to vent into the chassis leg. So I think I've got the plumbing sorted with that. If it doesn't work, I'm just going to rip it out and blank everything off. On another note, the solenoid here, I think I had this and this round the wrong way, according to a diagram I found with a closer up view. Someone might correct me on this, but I now have this side here teed into the turbo wastegate actuator, which is down there. So I've got it coming into a 3-way, and I've got it on this side now instead of that side, and I've got that side going as a breather to the air pipe, so I had them round the other way. So we're going to try that. I have cleaned back up the spark plugs. They were brand new, so I've gave them a clean up to see how it's going to run. Pod filter is now bolted in properly, just in case there's any. It wouldn't be unmetered air because it's coming in at this side, but just so that there's filtered air going in case it's making a difference. I'm making sure that's plugged in. Battery's fully charged, so it's now time to start it and see what is going to happen. Please, 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 please. What was that? It's a new day, it's freezing cold in Scotland, but we've got the Pulsar in, and today I'm going to strip down all of this engine bay and find out what's been happening mechanically to cause this huge upset. Is it something I've done, or is it something new? So today we're going to find out. But first, before we go into stripping down the engine, a few people have been asking about how I've managed to communicate with the car and speak to it for trouble codes. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do that right now. So the first process what I use to communicate is this little data link box. I think it's a homemade job off of someone off of the owner's page or the forum or something, and basically I'm able to connect this to the car using this plug. Then I have to download an app onto the tablet, and then we can communicate through that. There is also a way to bridge the pins, and I think it flashes the engine management light and you count the amount of flashes. It matches to the appropriate code in the owner's handbook or whatever, but this is like a 90 or an 89 car, so it's a bit harder to communicate. There's just no OBD. A lot of people might be wondering why I'm even talking about this. There's no like OBD2 ports on these. You can't just plug them in and get all the kind of stuff, but I'll show you some of the useful points on this app as well. So it's got a little bit of live data and stuff involved, so I'm going to show you that as well. Right, so first things first, that little port there under this cover is going to plug this in. So we are in ignition on, as always. You hear the there on the fuel pump. Apologies about the dirty screen on the tablet, guys, but this is the app here, NDSI, so I'm clicking this. It will upload just now. Also need to make sure that there's a little switch on the black box there, is switch to the right, switch to the correct position. Now click connect. It likes to match the phones and stuff as well, but I was having difficulty reminding myself how to operate this, so it's this one here, because that's the name of the little box device. So it's now connecting, and it's connected. So it's getting everything. So you can see here we've got info, data display, self-diagnostic, dash and video recorder across the top. The reason I'm doing this right now before I strip down the engine is because just in case I've had it running in and out a couple of times, in case it's picked up a code and I'm able to talk to this and get at least a hint of an idea where I'm looking to resolve the issue in the car. So if a code read right now, it may give me something, it may not, but if I strip everything down then and I've disconnected everything, it's then going to have loads of open circuits. So we're going to do it right now and show you guys before I strip down the engine. So we're connected. I go to data display and it can give me all sorts of live data here. So we've got RPM, airflow, water temp, O2, stuff like that. There's some timing and stuff. It's not huge in comparison to new cars, but it does help. Now, you can also go into dash. So it gives you positions and battery voltage and airflow and stuff. But we're looking for self-diagnostic, so we're looking for this. And it's just loading up through, but it's not really going to change for that, I don't think. It's not changing. Code 55, no faults. Now in the last video I did have a fault with the ignition circuit, if you guys remember. So that was showing me here, and then I realised I hadn't plugged it in. In the start of this video you'll have noticed the brown plug, which is for the throttle position sensor. Now it was disconnected as well, I had left it off as well, and I didn't have any codes for that. So it shows some of the goodness of this app, and then some of the maybe where it lacks a little. Previously, when I was having huge running issues for a couple of years with this car, and it's the reason why I wasn't really using it, it was overfueling all the time, and this actually gave me up the MAF code, and then I realised I was running the complete wrong MAF for the car, which I'll show you guys later because I have it with me today. I fitted the correct MAF sensor to the car, and then we were good, and the car ran pretty well. I don't think it was 100%, but it ran pretty well. I've never had this car running 100%. I don't know why it didn't flag up the throttle position sensor. So there might still be something in the engine bay that this hasn't picked up. So now it's time to strip everything down. Right, so I think in the very first episode I explained to you guys that I was really quick at stripping this down, and today I'm going to show you how quick I am. So just to save any bother, we're going to strip it down like that. What I have just noticed is that pipe there is off. There. Now that's obviously a big vacuum issue. So now I need to go and see if that's been off before. I need to try and find a video if I've just knocked that off just now, because I'm actually most way through stripping this. I'm taking off the nuts. So if I've knocked it off just now, then it's obviously not been that. So looking at this pipe again, which was the one that was slipped off, found a video when I had it running with the intercooler off, right, and this was sitting, say, roughly there, and if you look here, that pipe is coming across the underside of this pipe when it's disconnected, sitting loose, and if I plug it in to there, where it's supposed to be, it doesn't come all the way across and stick out the opposite side there. It kind of loops down in to the nipple. It's no sticking out there. I'm now at the point where do I build it back up and try it again? And that's been the issue. Or do we strip it all down and keep going? What do you think? Is that the mistake? This, I just want to point out, this isn't scripted. There is nothing I hate more than stripping all this back down and not knowing what's wrong with it to then rebuild it all back up for no reason. This is where I'll be truthful. I never replaced the inlet manifold gasket when I had it off. Largely because it never came in time, and then the price of parts now starting to climb. That was £130. So I had to do a little bit of shopping, and we found a kind of kit here, which actually looks plastic, but apparently it's thermal. And it gives us the one for the plenum here, and the one for the gasket. So that was £50 for the two of them, and it was £130 I think for just the inlet manifold gasket. So obviously I'm looking to spend money on the car but not throw it away. So I do have the new gasket, which I actually do want to fit. So I kind of do want to take everything off, but at the same time, because if it could be a gasket issue that's causing the problem, and I could have an air leak from the inlet manifold. But with that pipe being off, it makes me want to just find out, was it that? Let's find out. Before starting the car, I switched out the filled plugs for fresh ones to give it a fighting chance, and I've plumbed in the HKS blow-off valve, as that's the one that should be in it anyway. Right, it's now time to fire it up and see if that was the issue. Let's just remind ourselves how this was running before we found that pipe, if it was the problem. And we're going to fire it up now. So we've put the new plugs in just to give it a bit of a better chance in running cleaner. And I think we'll know straight away. Based on the last video, it wants to automatically cut out without a little bit of throttle. So if we start it up after 10 seconds or so, it's going to do the same. Then we know that's not really the issue. But if it starts to idle well and then settles down, then we can actually start the bleed process in the service. This is just a small blip in the project. We've still got brakes, maybe suspension work, we've got exhaust work, there's loads. We need it through the MOT, we need to do the road trip, so this is going to be an extensive project. This seems like a lot of drama for the first actual stage, which was the coolant pipes. So this is actually coolant pipe related issue, because that was what we started, but we've got loads more components to freshen up this engine, which I'll show you guys. Put in the comments, yes or no. Is this going to be the fix? Yes. Or no, we still have to strip it all down. And be truthful. Pause the video, put it in the comment, and then play the video again. I don't think I knocked the pipe off this time, based on the video, just to position. So I'm going to say that this is a fix. Remember that kind of spitting noise down the back of the engine? I've never heard it before, but I've never had one of these pipes disconnected before, so that's making me think that this is the issue. So I'm saying yes, it's going to run, and this has been the issue. So let me know what you guys think. Out the woods yet, but it does sound better. It does sound better. Will I do the dance again? Might be premature, there's a couple of spits happening here, but I'm not getting the spitting noise out of the engine. Just getting a couple of little burps out the exhaust. There's a bit of excess fuel still to be burnt off in that though. If you guys can see this, but every now and then it's blowing a smoke ring just about here. There's one there. See those little smoke rings coming out there? I don't know if that's little burps in the exhaust, little slight misfirey thing. Hard to tell, but at this point she seems no too bad. Certainly that was the issue. We have found the issue. It's been running for a good 5 minutes now. Listen to that, man. Listen. So that's it for this episode on the Nissan Pulsar. It is up and running, but we've got a long way to go. On the next episode, we're going to be bleeding this engine, servicing it, and doing a little bit of other things. We might even rip the inlet manifold back off now that we know what the issue was, just to put the new gaskets and stuff on. I'm 50-50 with that. We've got more to do in the engine bay anyway. We've got exhaust work to do, we've got brake work to do, everything to get it ready for an MOT. If you've liked this video and you're enjoying this project, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. Remember and tell us in the comments if you did think this was the fix or if it wasn't. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.